Just give me a wave when I'm on. Okay, good afternoon everyone. My name's Sandy O'Connor. I'm the Crime Prevention Officer for the City of Whittlesea and I'm based out of Epping Police Station. And the good thing about me is that I grew up in this area. I lived in Laylaw from the age of 4 and I'm now 45, so it's a very long time. And I've worked in the area since the opening of Mill Park Police Station in 1993. So I have a fair knowledge of what's going on in the community. I've seen it change over the years and I'm well aware of the concerns of the public, I guess, and the issues we face both within Victoria Police and as a community. My role is, as I mentioned, that of a crime prevention officer, so it's my job to tackle issues that are trending in the community, that are becoming matters of importance for the community, and try and develop and implement strategies to address those issues. So for instance, if we have a particular issue with burglaries in a particular area, it would generally come to me to have a look at what kind of things we might be able to do to reduce the number of burglaries happening in an area. All right. So when we talk about crime prevention, as the term implies, it is simply a number of strategies that are put in place to reduce crime and to minimise the fear of crime in the community. And the fear of crime in our community is as big an issue as crime itself. We know that the older the community gets, the worse their perceptions of fear are. People become vulnerable as they age. There are financial difficulties in replacing property if it gets stolen. Physical strength diminishes, and for those who are isolated, the only way they get their news is from the media. And unfortunately, the media only portray things that are going to get big public reaction. So that would be incidents involving both children and older adults. So for our older community, we generally see a worsening in perceptions of safety around the community. We know that we have a difficult job nowadays. Society has changed. We have a lot of initiatives in place, but we now, have come to realise over the last few years that the community, as individuals, as organisations, as local government, all play a vital role in preventing crime. I can tell you now that almost 80% of crime in the state of Victoria is opportunistic. So when I talk about opportunistic crime, that simply means that it's the proportion of crime that occurs without any planning. So it's where an offender sees an opportunity to commit a crime and seizes it at that very time. So there is no forward planning. They may come across a car with valuables in the front seat, see it as an opportunity to make some money, and off they go. They'll break a window and smash the car window to get whatever's in there. So that's what we call opportunistic. The best example of that is theft from motor cars, and I'll go into that a little in a sec. Before I do that, I just want you to know that for a crime to occur anywhere, there must be 3 things present. The first one is obviously the offender. If there is no offender, no crime is going to take place. The second thing is a suitable victim. If there's no victim, we don't have a crime again. The third thing is that there is something or someone present that encourages that crime, or to the other extent, there is nothing to discourage that crime. So when I speak about that, what I'm talking about is it might be a dark, unlit car park that would encourage, so the circumstances there encourage the offence to take place. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So the best example I can give you of that is theft from motor cars. The Whittlesea Police Service Area, which encompasses the entire city of Whittlesea, is rated as one of the top 10 areas in the state for theft from motor cars. All right. We sit right up there with the likes of Frankston, and it's becoming a real issue for us, and probably the biggest issue we're trying to tackle, other than family violence, of course, in the municipality. In the 2012 to 2013 financial year, we had about 1,200 recorded offences from theft from motor car. Greg, can I ask you where you live? What suburb?
In Mill Park.
Mill Park, okay. So I'll centre on Mill Park for now. So in the Mill Park response zone for that financial year, 2012 to 13, we had 446 offences of theft from motor car occur. So we're doing a lot in that area, but this year we're looking at another increase. From July the 1st in 2013 to the end of March, we've seen an increase in 542 offences in the Mill Park response zone. So that encompasses South Morang, parts of Mernda, Bundoora and Mill Park, of course. So we are seeing this offence on the increase. All right. It's something that Victoria Police are looking at a statewide option, but we've got to deal with it locally as well. So far this year we've had 1,450 offences. So by the end of the financial year we're going to be well up on last year's figures. Half of those theft from motor cars involve number plates. All right. And people don't realise that number plates are used in other offences, in the commission of other offences, and that's why they're being stolen. We also know that there's a definite correlation between theft of number plates and theft of petrol, and the petrol industry lose millions of dollars every year. What happens is people steal number plates off your vehicle, they place them on their own car, they go down to the petrol station and they fill up with fuel, and then they remove your number plates and they just get dumped somewhere. What happens is the service station then calls the local police station and says, hey, we've got this white Commodore, the registration is ABC123, it's just stolen $60 of fuel. The police will look up the registration and we find that ABC123 actually belongs to a black Mitsubishi. So pretty much the investigation ends there because we've got no positive lead. So that's where they're getting stolen. So last year we had 450 sets of number plates stolen. And it's at a cost to the community too. If your number plates get stolen, I think it costs around $36 to replace those at Vic Roads. And there's also the chance that the police are going to knock on your door and say, hey, were you out there stealing petrol today? When you weren't. So that's our biggest issue. We've dedicated a crime team specifically to theft from motor cars. So we are doing a lot of work undercover at our railway stations and in our public car parks. I've also been out doing some audits of car parks with Neighbourhood Watch volunteers. So what we do in that instance is we'll visit a car park, we'll go through the car park and look into every vehicle. If we see an item of value on display in a vehicle, I then send a letter to the registered owner of that car with some theft from motor car prevention information. So the most common types of property we find, and we seem to see a lot of it, we see a lot of handbags on front seats of vehicles, we see a lot of laptops, we see a lot of GPS devices, and we see a lot of cash just sitting in the centre consoles of vehicles, and unfortunately something as small as sunglasses are getting stolen quite frequently. So if you've got a cheap pair of sunglasses sitting in the front of your car, what might not be valuable to you may be seen as something valuable to a criminal, and off they go and break into your car. So there's a number of things that you can do as individuals to remove the element of the opportunity in that instance. That is to fit your car with one-way screws. Now we have one-way screws at all police stations within the City of Whittlesea. They will affix your number plates. They can be put on with a normal screwdriver, but not removed with a normal screwdriver. To get them off requires a special tool, and they are placed at all the police stations too locally. We also have a couple of local car yards who have the tool. So that's one word of advice. Just that alone would halve our theft from motor cars. If you have a GPS, please remove it. If you're going to park your car out in the street at night or in a public car park, remove your GPSs and try and rub the little suction marks off the window. All right? The biggest mistake people make with GPSs is, yes, they've taken notice of the message that they're being stolen, but what they do is take them off and pop them under the seat in the front passenger seat. So sometimes we can see them when we patrol, but I'm sure our crooks know where to look for them. So that's not a good idea. You really need to take it with you. At home, we're trying to encourage people to park off the street where possible. We see a lot of cars parked out in the street when people actually have driveways and garages, and we sort of don't really understand why people are parking out in the street when there's no need to. Parking out in the street means that the car is further away from you. You don't hear anything if someone was to break into your car, and it makes it more accessible to the young kid who's just walking down the street, comes across a car, sees the opportunity and takes it. So again, it's about reducing opportunity. Certainly in public places, train stations, shopping centres and things like that, we try and get people to park as close to you can as your platforms or the shopping centre themselves, and definitely in well-lit areas. That's about the best thing you can do with theft from Motorcar. It's really about not leaving valuables in your car. Burglaries is one of the other, what we term as a high volume crime in the City of Whittlesea. For the most part, burglars don't sit and watch houses like they do on TV. So we're not, you know, we're not in America. They don't sit outside your house for a week and watch when you come and go. That doesn't happen, all right? For the most part, burglaries are opportunistic as well. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that if you take the following advice, your house won't be broken into, but I can certainly give you some tips on how to make your house a less attractive option to a thief. All right? So most burglaries occur during the day when the occupants of the house are at work. That's a good thing for our older community because generally they're at home more and the house is appearing that it's lived in. So we actually find that the older you get, the safer your house is and the safer you are in general. If a burglar thinks that someone's home, they're less likely to break in. So trying to create the illusion that no one's home, that somebody is home, sorry, even if you're not, is the best thing you can do. So leaving a radio on or the television on if you happen to be going out so there's some noise coming from the house, or getting some timer lights from Bunnings or one of the other hardware stores. They're very cheap. You can use timer lights to come on at, say, 7 o'clock at night. Welcome, Sue. Can you see us now?
Nope, still black.
No, still dark. Well, hopefully you can hear.
I can hear, but I don't see anything.
Okay, so back to the timer lights. We try and encourage people to get timer lights to pop on at, say, 7 o'clock at night and turn off again at 10 o'clock. They're particularly handy if you're away for a long period of time or if you're away on holidays. It still creates the appearance that somebody is home. When break-ins occur, what we're finding at the moment is that the most common entry points are through sliding doors and sliding windows. Okay, so with a sliding door, they're very easily popped out of their frames, and certainly the same can be said for sliding windows. The other thing that we're seeing is that people who are breaking into homes are breaking small holes in sliding windows and then just reaching in and opening the sliding window. So it's not that they're smashing the windows and climbing in through them. They're actually just popping a hole in, reaching in, grabbing the window and sliding it open. All right. Now, most sliding windows have key locks nowadays. People don't use them, and I'm guilty of that myself. So if you know where I live, you can come and break in. But not using those locks means that that can happen, that they can easily slide the window open. All right. The best defence against that, and the cheapest defence, is to get a piece of dowel, so a thin piece of wood, and prop it in the opposite end of the window, and it stops it from being slid open. So if the window is high up, and they generally are, it makes entry a lot harder. But sliding windows, sliding doors are the most common point of entry that we're seeing at the moment. Leaving valuable items in the front yard. So we often drive around and we see things like bicycles, you know, expensive kids' toys and things like that in the front yard. That pretty much tells people that there's some lucrative gear in the house, that there's items of expense. So we ask people not to leave things lying around in the front yard. If you were to buy a brand new television, leaving the box out the front after, you know, for the garbage truck to come and get, it's not a really good idea because you're also telling everyone that drives past that you've just bought, you know, a 200 centimetre screen television for your home. And that might attract someone who's you know, prepared to take the chance and break into your house. So with those kind of things, with boxes for your valuables and electronic goods, we suggest that you actually take the time to rip them up and pop them in the recycle bin. With our gardens, all I'm going to say about this is that we need to keep our gardens maintained. So as far as shrubs and things like that go, I think you can all see me, they should be kept down to about 40 centimetres in height. And where you have big trees, you need to trim those branches up so that they are up here. The reason for that is we want people from the street to have a visual sight line directly into your home. So if someone was to be breaking into a window at the front of the house or trying to get in the front door, someone driving past can see that happening. If you've got big bushes everywhere and things like that, what you're doing is creating hiding spots. So keeping the garden maintained. The other thing that we know too is that the better kept the garden is, the better maintained a house is. The offenders tend to think that it's being looked after. It might be alarmed. There might be more security measures there, so they're less inclined to pick that house. So if there's an option of two houses and one looks like it's not kept well, that'll be the house that gets broken into. Okay. As far as alarms go, look, the Victoria Police line is that we want people to get monitored alarms. Once upon a time, everybody had audible alarms, and we would attend instances where those alarms went off. Those days are gone. Victoria Police now doesn't respond to an audible alarm, so that is an alarm that simply has a siren. We don't respond to those alarms until it is a confirmed break-in. All right. With a monitored alarm, if it goes back to base, you have a security company who's monitoring that alarm. If that alarm goes off, they then monitor the movements, and if they suspect something's going on, they'll generally contact you. In some cases, they will contact the police if they can't get hold of you or the next given number. But that is, you know, the better way to get a response, I guess, from police. They're quite easy to have, they're quite cheap to have monitored. It costs you about $30 a month, and they are a good idea. Having said that, I'm quite happy and more than happy, and I've made my parents get one installed. I actually think that an audible alarm is a more effective alarm choice for houses. It's cheaper, it's a one-off cost, and the one thing that we do know is when an audible alarm siren goes off, our criminals get out the house. Okay? So with the monitored alarms, what they do is they enter the house. They would generally only be in there for a couple of minutes anyway. So that by the time the monitored alarm, you know, the company gets wind of it and contacts the police if necessary, the crooks are generally gone. With an audible alarm, they're out of there quite early. So they're spending less time in the home. So either way, you know, it's up to you as individuals what you would prefer to have. If you can afford one, certainly get one. But if the cheaper option is all you can afford, then an audible alarm will do the job. Some other things about the house. With your house numbers, please, if you have older homes and you have older house numbers that are painted dark colours, black and brown and things like that, go over them with a bit of white paint. The reason for that is if you do require the emergency services to come to your home, we want to be able to identify the house very quickly, particularly if it's the ambulance. They don't want to be driving up and down the street for 2 minutes trying to find number 24. So the more vibrant your house number is, the better chance of getting them there quicker. And certainly with the ambulance, a matter of a minute can make a big difference. So we want your house numbers to be nice and big. Security doors, most houses have security doors nowadays. Actually use them and lock them. We have a lot of people that have them but just leave them unlocked, and I know from, you know, just knocking on doors when I'm going out to speak to people, quite often the security doors are unlocked and you just open those up and knock on the front door of the house. Use your security doors. That way if someone does come to the door, you can speak to them before allowing entry. All right? If you don't have that security door locked, as soon as you open the other front door, your proper front door, you're face to face with people. So please use security doors. Deadlocks are a little bit of an issue. They're designed to protect your property, not protect you. The fire brigade will tell you that particularly in summer when we tend to have more fires, people tend to get trapped in their homes, and the reason for that is that they have deadlocks on the front doors and the back doors, and they double lock them with the keys. Okay, so the idea with deadlocks is that they are there to protect your property when you're not there. If you are going to double lock your front door at night time when you are home for added security, because that gives you peace of mind, you really need to keep those keys next to your bed or something, somewhere where you can easily access them. In the case of a fire, the house will fill with smoke. If you don't know where your keys are, you're not going to be able to get out of the front door. Okay, so it's just important to know where those keys are. It's good to use them, but you need to know where those keys are. On the subject of keys, please don't leave them outside the house under a rock or under a big green frog. If you're putting them outside, there's a big chance that people will see where you're going to get that key at some stage. So we suggest you don't do that. For the gentlemen in the room, please make sure you're putting your tools back in your sheds and garages at the end of the day after you're using them, and your lawnmowers and things like that, and make sure that those sheds are locked. The last thing we want is to give people the opportunity to use your own tools to jemmy open a door or a window, or a screwdriver to get into your house, or a ladder even to get onto the roof if that was the case. So it makes sense that you put all those things away at the end of the night and make them less accessible. So I hope I'm not scaring anyone. We're not a community where we get broken into every second of the day, but it does happen. There is a chance that you may become a victim of a burglary or property crime, and I like to be honest about, the fact that it does happen and you may become a victim. So there are some little things that you can do to prevent it from happening, I guess. And I think everything I've mentioned at the moment is really minimal in cost. Things like the dowel and things like that, that can make a really big difference to the security of your home. So if you let's talk about what you would do if you had an intruder in your home. Okay, so the best thing that you can do is have a plan of what you could do. So if you're at home and you're in bed and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you hear a window smashing and you think somebody is in your home, what do you do? All right, so Sue, I can ask a question here. So Greg, what would you do if it was 3 o'clock in the morning and you're in bed and you hear a window smashing? What do you do? What do you think you would do?
What do I think I'd do? I'd get up and see what it is. And
Okay.
If it's just a rock that's been thrown from the street, I'd be happy, as long as there's no criminal coming in through the house.
Okay.
If there is, I'd try and block him, but I don't know. That's about all I know.
You try to block him?
From coming in.
Okay. Maria, what about you?
I would panic.
You'd panic?
And probably stay in bed and ask my husband to get out and investigate.
Okay, all right. The reason I ask that question is we get a lot of people who say, oh, I'd shoot him, or I'd do this, or I'd get my gun, and we get all sorts of answers when I ask that question. So what we suggest that you would do is turn on the lights and make noise. So in the vast majority of home intrusions, it's accidental in the sense that the person breaking in thinks that nobody is home. So you know before how I spoke about creating the illusion of someone being home? That's very difficult to do when we all go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. So quite often our offenders don't think that somebody is home. They may even knock on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and when no one answers, they think nobody is home. Now, if someone knocked on my door at home at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a big chance I'm not going to hear them because I'm dreaming about winning Tatsuado or something. So it's quite easy for them to think that they're not home. And if they are drug affected or alcohol affected, you know, you can see how they will get that impression that nobody is home. So the one thing that we do, I spoke about the audible alarm going before and the noise and the fact that it makes them run. The same thing with a home intrusion. We suggest that you turn on lights, make some noise, make sure they know somebody is home, because for the most part, they will just go out of the entry point that they came in. All right? That's the first thing that we do. At all stages, if you can get out the house, get out of the house. All right? So say Greg gets up and he goes out to see what's happening, and he finds that there's a male in the house in front of him, then it's a little bit hard, isn't it? We've already made that contact. We've got eye-to-eye contact with the criminal. All right? The one thing that you don't know is what he's like. Is he scared of you? Who knows? Is he going to be in a panic? Yes, he is. The one thing you've got to remember that they don't want to be identified. That's the last thing they want, is to be caught. So the best thing you can do really is make way for them and let them go. All right? The problem with confronting people in that instance, or any other instance really, is that you don't know what they have on them. You've just gotten out of bed, you're a little bit groggy, you're in your pyjamas, or hopefully you're in pyjamas. You may not be in pyjamas. But you've got to remember that a person who has broken into a home has on them a screwdriver or a jemmy or some other tool that they have used to get into the house. If you try to block them, then you may get injured as a result, because they're in a panic to get out. So it's not that they've broken in to hurt you. That normally, when that happens, we generally find that the two parties are known to each other and there is something else going on. All right? If it's something as simple as a home intrusion and someone happens to be home when they shouldn't have been, as far as our criminal is concerned, then we don't like people to confront them where possible. So having a mobile phone on you is a really good idea, and if you can get out of the house, just do that. Get out of the house, ring the police, let them come around and sort it out. All right? The other thing is, if you're outside of the house and he does take off, you're in a really good position to see where he's gone or what car he's jumped into. But definitely not confronting them if at all possible. So I use this next example. Generally with older women I use this, but let's say that you're an older woman and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep. You get up and you go into the kitchen, you're making yourself a cup of tea. All right? And you turn around and there happens to be a 30-year-old male standing there confronting you in your own kitchen. Okay? My question to you now, and Sue, can you see us yet?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. So I'll use this one for you, Sue. This is a question for you. If you were a woman, and I know you're not, or if you were in the kitchen and making yourself a cup of tea as a male, and you turned around and you were confronted by an intruder in your home, can you defend yourself? Do you think that you're allowed by law to defend yourself?
I'd like to think so. If it were a female burglar, I'd offer her a cup of tea. Oh, I'm a gentleman, see, so I make a pretty good cup of tea too. So, no, I think the law allows me to use reasonable force.
Yes.
The problem is reasonable force is subjective. So the thing is, even if I could use force, the question is, am I exceeding that level of force required?
Yep. You know, Sue, can I tell you, in all the years that I've been doing this job, you're the first person who has ever said that they're allowed to use reasonable force. So well done there. So I think we might have lost. Oh no, you are still there. Okay. So yes. So let's say you're in the kitchen, and there's someone in front of you, and you're in fear of your safety, and you hit him over the head with a fry pan, and you knock him unconscious to the ground. That's completely lawful. You are doing what is necessary in order to prevent yourself from being attacked, and you are using reasonable force. The law allows that, and what the courtroom will ask is that were your actions that of a reasonable person? And the answer in that instance would be yes. Where you can get yourself into trouble is once we've knocked that person unconscious, because I've just hit him over the head with a fry pan, if I then start kicking him in the head, just because now I want to punish him, then that's not all right anymore, okay? Because he's unconscious and that threat's gone. So you can use reasonable force, not the words are not disproportionate to the objective. So in order you do what you need to do to be able to stop him. Okay. Once the threat's gone, though, you can't then continue. All right. And we've seen instances of that, you know, over the years where people use excessive force. I think there's a gentleman who's in the court system at the moment for shooting someone that he thought was going to break into a factory in Thomastown, actually. And that person found himself being charged because the force used was excessive. All right, so you can defend yourself, and you can defend yourself in any instance. Oh, sorry, is that really loud for you? Oh, okay, sorry, I'm leaning on this, that's why. Okay, so so you can use reasonable force to protect yourself in any circumstance. All right. Okay, would we like to have a minute break at the moment? Does anyone need a toilet trip?
Nah,
Yes?
I'm fine.
If you need a
You're
break,
fine.
Sandy, that's fine.
I want a minute break so I can get my wife to make me a cup of coffee, actually.
Yep, all right. Well, how about
All right.
we take a couple of minutes to have grab a coffee, go to the toilet, and whatever else. All right, and I'll
Okay.
see you in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thanks, Sandy.